Good afternoon and good evening. My name is Rich Clark, Guide to the Right Path, and I'm going to continue my series on essential oils. So this week is going to be about heart and emotions, and the first essential oil I'm going to be talking about is the rose. Rose essential oil, rose absolute, rose otto, and also rose water. So there's actually going to be a lot in this episode. So do warn you, you may have to watch some of the clips because there's a lot of information I'm going to give. So what is the theme between rose? Love, sensuality, creativity, and it's the flower of the heart. Now, where is it native to? It's native to Europe and Western Asia, and rose damascus is also commonly known as Bulgarian rose. This comes from the Bulgarian Rose Valley. Now, the Bulgarian Rose Valley is where most of rose water of the world comes from. Now, it used to be mainly ran by the Bulgarians itself, but actually China have now bought most of that valley up, and they actually are the main business, which then sells to the world as a asset. Turkish rose or roseotto is known as rose maroc, French rose, attar or rose absolute. So this is why we identify the idea of Paris being the city of love, because roses are mainly given there. So there's a whole historical idea of that. So with rose embodying love, compassion, emotional healing, it's also used in grief work, heart opening, and skin healing. So, for example, this could be something you could help yourself with. A drop in the carrier oil on your pulse points before meditation helps. And this backs up some ideas of Sanskrit, which I'm going to talk about later. So rose historically has been used in art, literature, and many sacred purposes. And the duality of life versus death is very apparent in historical context. The word rosa comes from the Greek rose word Rodon, which means red. In ancient Babylonian, Assyrian, China, Rome, and Greece, they were aware of its properties. Many got into wars because of it too. I've got a book called The War of the Roses, and one day I'll actually do a whole. I've done an essay, and I've actually done a article about it, which I've shared on LinkedIn. But I have it as a PDF. So anybody wants to read it, it is a very long document. It's probably about 40 pages long, but it explains about the whole idea, the concept of rose and why people got into battles with it, and the idea of why the Bulgarian Valley is very important to it, and how that actually navigated that as a place where there was a sort of a place where no wars would happen. It's quite deep and goes into that. So the Romans used rose water in festivals, banquets. The rose was seen as a sign of pleasure, as a campaign as a companion for wine, but also was used at funerals. Now, in Chinese and Sanskrit texts being from ancient India, it was known as naturally cooling, heals the spleen and liver, and it promotes blood circulation, and was known to reduce depression. So again, historically, we've known about these things. Now, rose has also been used as a medicinal plant since antiquity and celebrated for calming and uplifting aroma. The oil has a toning, hence rose water is popular in skincare toners. It's anti-inflammatory, rejuvenating effect, and mold detoxing and antiseptic properties. So with rejuvenating the skin, rose oil supports and actually helps promote cell and tissue regeneration. Now, this helps maintain the skin's elasticity and reduce the appearance of fine lines. Now, healing the skin, it helps repair sun-damaged skin and damage from burns and scalds. It also, for pregnant women, is reduced stretch marks, and due to anti-inflammatory, soothes dry, hot, itchy skin. Now, I'm going to give a recipe of that, of how you can use a rose water toner. So damask rose, also damask, which is rose otto, is rose damask is slightly different, is actually that fights 15 strains of bacteria. So it enhances well-being to increase feelings of vitality. And rose oil has a toning effect on the uterus as well, which can help ease heavy, clotted, or painful periods and relief from premenstrual tension. This also relieves digestive discomfort, though I would suggest still going to chamomile or other things for digestive discount. As a skin toner remedy, I'm going to give you one here, which is using 2 tablespoons of witch hazel, and then 4 tablespoons of rose floral water, and 2 drops of rose absolute oil. And you put this in a spray bottle and use when needed. So instead of buying rose toners from skincare brands, that is actually as effective and it's a lot cheaper. So the idea of rose toners is actually a rip-off in the skincare industry. And I know this, I've made my own skincare and I have my own skincare company. Rose water was always used in my toners, but I would always use an oil blend or whatever. And that actually, oil blend actually helps. Rose in a massage oil, which is very useful, can relieve depression and very good if you're going through fertility issues, IVF, or actually someone is pregnant. It's very useful. So what you can do here is this. To relieve these depression, anxiety, and grief. So this remedy is the following: is 3 drops of rose absolute or otto, 3 drops of geranium, and geranium is actually a regulator of female hormones and so forth. I'm going to talk about geranium in the heart and emotions as of Sunday. And 3 drops of orange essential. And with this, you mix this in with 2 tablespoons of a base oil. Now, I would suggest if they're not reactive to any sort of nut oil, almond oil would be very good for this. But if you don't use almond oil, use an oil which actually would enhance these properties. Now, I would say for spreadability, you're looking at rice bran oil or sunflower oil because it's very spreadable. Or I would use, you could use even olive oil if you wanted to, but olive oil depends on the quality, in my opinion. But that would be very useful as a massage. Also, whenever you're using it, a safe usage within using a distiller in a diffuser is to use only 1%, because what you're actually doing when you go using rose absolute, it's like 1,000 roses are being pressed into one. So 1 drop of rose essential oil is very strong. So people don't understand it. So when people go, oh, I want to smell of roses, like, yeah, be careful because it can be overpowering. And it can be also overstimulating as well. So how do they get rose absolute oil? Well, it's a couple of things. So it's steam distilled from the flower, and this essential oil is known as roseotto. But this is cheaper than rose absolute, and the quality is very obvious. And if the rose is overpowering, that means more alcohol was used in the process, meaning it wanes quicker. Now, I've been to the Bulgarian Rosevalley because when I ran a skincare event, I wanted to go there. And what I saw was these massive vats. And what they did is with steam distilled, they put these roses in there in water, and they heat the water up. And what they do is with the steam, it goes up, and then that steam then goes into a form of oil. And then there's an oil film on the top, which is the top film is rose absolute. Another film is what they distill from that rose absolute, make it weaker and dilute it, is rose otto. And the rose water is what's produced afterwards. So the rose water they then cool down after they do the distillation, and that is the thing they mainly sell. So rose water is actually a very cheap product because it's done in massive vats. But rose water, like I said, is now mainly controlled by the Chinese, and actually it's the Chinese government control most of it. So actually 90% of the rose water in the world is actually controlled by the Chinese, but it's mainly still 70 to 80% of it is still grown in the Bulgarian Rose Valley, but they have a contract with the Chinese. So again, knowing where your access and where you get all these things from. So until next time, I shall speak to you soon. And if you are interested in ever knowing about skincare creations, or you're wanting to know more, or you're wanting to get PDFs on stuff about skincare, or actual essential oils, please let me know. Email me at info@richclark.net. And if you are interested in my other work as a hypnotherapist, then please go to my website, which is www.richclark.net. I shall speak to you all soon.